Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan, a former Royal Marines Commando from the UK. I just want to say thank you yet again for stopping by to watch one of these videos. We are reacting on what's wrong with Russia's military. There's quite a few things we can talk about with this, so get your comments ready, drop them below, and I'll try and get back to you guys. But the debates that have been that have created from watching these videos and reacting to them have been phenomenal. There's loads and loads of conversations occurring in the comments section, guys. So if you want to see me there or anyone else there with some interesting points, then please drop a comment and let's get going with the whole thing. But today it's the second part with what's wrong with Russia's military. Now, on the last video we were talking about various different things, and we finished off with how a lot of the money that is being siphoned from the budget is going into all of these corrupt different streams of ways to get rid of the money, so to speak. And we kind of concluded in the comments that a lot of the people surrounding Putin, himself included, with regards to corruption and how that money can be siphoned and utilized, not in a militarily way. On paper, it might seem as if it's getting spent on the military, but it's not. It's going into other different things and basically making people very, very wealthy out of it. So that's where we ended on that, and I think we're going to start at the place where we ended, guys, but we're going to get straight into it. If you do one thing today, please consider smashing that like button. It really does help us out. I know people don't like it when we ask that, but it's the very thing that helps the video to grow. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check the notifications are turned on. And if you want to become a member to support the channel even further, because a lot of these videos don't get monetized due to the topic in which we're talking about, that's going to help me out a lot. But guys, thanks for being here. Let's get straight into this. We're not going to waste any time today.
A modern lethal force, but the truth has been laid bare. Much of that money has obviously been siphoned off by individuals across the length and breadth of the Russian leadership and acquisition chains. Corruption is nothing new in Russia. Putin himself is likely the world's richest man thanks to all the wealth he's stolen from national industries and oligarchs he disliked.
That's a thing, guys, that a lot of people fail and forget sometimes, fail to recognize and sometimes forget. This guy is extremely wealthy, and when you've got the amount of wealth that he has, you've got a massive influence on how the world, how politicians, how groups, how countries respond to you. They've almost got to tiptoe around you because that money is power. We've seen at the very top, these very, very wealthy individuals have been able to, influence politics, influence political decisions, influence industry, influence manufacturing, consumerism. All of that good stuff can be influenced by a powerful person. I don't know if you've seen the video where Putin went into a factory. It's about 9-year-old, this video, or might be a little bit older, where he went into a factory that stopped producing whatever it was manufacturing. He basically went in, told everyone to basically start manufacturing again, create jobs. All right, this guy has a lot of power, and they literally started the factory again when he was there to save people from losing their jobs and all of that. But it just goes to show how much influence he has, what he can do, the real power involved, and that power is all generated from fear. The man acts on fear, all right, and he gets fear results, all right. People walk on eggshells around him, so he's got a lot of influence. People are scared of him, and yeah, he can affect industry if he wants to.
What is new is just how jaw-droppingly pervasive Russian corruption has been, stretching so far and gobbling up so much funding that Russian soldiers are using egg crate tank armor and cardboard armor inserts. Cheap Chinese tires show a further siphoning of funds, with untold millions pocketed by spending well under allotted procurement budgets. It's all but a certainty then that Russia's infamous maintenance problems aren't just a sign of bad leadership and poor standards, but also a result of the corruption that has eaten up funds meant for maintenance of equipment and procurement of quality.
And guess what, guys? They haven't gotten away with it as well. We've seen in Ukraine their failings, these little things that they might have, forget about that. We'll put those millions in our back pocket. It's only tires. Now, it might only be tires to the ill-experienced of those who haven't had to clean those tires and maintain them and be able to utilize the vehicles in which those tires are mounted upon into the battle space. You'll understand that without correct tires and correct fittings of the tires and the maintenance of the tires, these vehicles ain't going anywhere. And we've seen on footage, all right, that these vehicles in which they've been using have been quite literally abandoned and left on the battlefield. And Ukrainians have ended up taking them. Farmers are using them for scrap and all sorts. And it's just a terrible, terrible story logistically. It's poor. And is it really going to be worth it for the Russian economy in the long term? Obviously, it's not. You've got loads of money being pumped into the system, siphoned from it, not getting utilized in the correct way, making loads of people millionaires, billionaires in some cases. And guess what? They're getting found out on the battlefield. And in the end, if you cut corners, as they say in the military, you'll always get found out, guys.
Replacement parts. We have evidence of this from the many reports of Russian armored vehicle crews scrounging through Ukrainian junkyards for replacement parts, which in at least one verified instance led to Ukrainians stealing other parts from a broken down vehicle while its operators were themselves trying to steal parts from the Ukrainians. When they returned, they installed the stolen part and then realized they were missing other parts, and thus set off once more to raid the junkyard. Ukrainian citizens took that opportunity to steal back the original part in question and disappear with it. The vehicle was eventually abandoned, and Ukraine might have officially caused the first combat casualty of warfare through trolling. Ineptitude is yet another of the staggering number of problems affecting the Russian military. We have seen this at the highest lengths, with the Russian intelligence services completely failing to properly assess how Ukrainians would respond to an invasion, or how well prepared the military was to defend its homeland. Russia expected an easy victory, so easy in fact that on day one, Russia launched multiple air assaults just outside of Kyiv, expecting that it could simply create an air bridge by seizing runways and fly reinforcements in, with the capital falling within 3 days. Instead, the air assaults were almost all destroyed, inflicting horrible casualties on Russia's much vaunted airborne forces. In Russia, its airborne forces are legendary and even enjoy an entire day dedicated to them, called Paratroopers Day.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this Paratroopers Day, they do put a lot of respect on the airborne forces name. Quite similar to America and Great Britain, to be fair. You know, you've got the paratroopers and the Royal Marines held at the top of society's opinions with regards the military, you know. And obviously, it's quite similar for Russia as well. However, it's been proven that they can be as effective as you want. It's the leadership that doesn't exist, or the leadership that does exist is being utilized at the lower echelons of the rank structure, which is absolutely mental. If you know anything about the military, you know that if your officer is in charge of a section, then there's something really went wrong. You need the junior command structure to be in place to be able to run that section. And you know, it's the gumption of the junior leader that exists. People underestimate the power and the persuasive power and the leadership quality that the NCOs have on a battlefield. And these guys are the ones who wins wars. Make no mistake about that, all right? Officers and stuff, they coordinate things. They're fantastic. They're definitely needed, but they have a place, and NCOs have a place as well. We've seen in this structure, the way the Russians do it, they haven't got an NCO structure at all. They don't exist. Their NCOs, as that PID, so to speak, is run by officers. I couldn't imagine utilizing or being part of a section where the boss is in charge of 5 or 6 men. All right, and coordinated it from the ground. He's getting all of the, you know, the officer stuff, the officer jobs, which is important, and then he's having to do all the NCO stuff. To me, it's absolutely mental, and it doesn't work, clearly.
However, when put to the test, Russian paratroopers failed to achieve even one of their objectives in the opening days of the war, being thoroughly defeated by Ukraine's rapid response forces. It would be unfair to place all the blame on Russia's paratroopers, though. Truthfully, they were let down by the massive incompetence of Russian leadership, who believed lightly armed paratroopers could hold airports long enough for heavy vehicles to simply be flown in. This underestimated not just Ukrainian capabilities to respond to deep penetration air assaults, but also Ukrainian air defenses, which were still mostly active even weeks into the war and made reinforcing via...
This is the thing. We can only go for so long with saying that the Russians underestimated Ukraine. I don't think they underestimated Ukraine in the way that this video is stipulating. I think what they underestimated is the fact that I think they overestimated their own ability. That's the key to this. We need to be honest with ourselves and think, well, you can only keep on underestimating someone for so long before you need to take a look within and then go, well, actually, you know what? Maybe it's us who's got the problem with regards our overestimations of what we're capable of doing. They might have the size, they might have the numbers, they might have loads of things in place, they might have a fearsome reputation, but in truth, are they capable in 2022 of coordinating an effective invasion on a country? So far, we're not really seeing it play out that way. Albeit there's a lot of deaths going on both sides, and people might think, well, obviously they're quite dangerous, there's deaths occurring and everything else, but on a massive global scale, you've got to look at how poorly they've performed so far, and strategically they've been very, very, very poor, and I think that's down to their own overestimations of how good they actually are. In actual fact, they're proven to be quite average, and in some cases, like logistics and command structure, I think they're proven to be very, very poor indeed, okay?
Air bridge impossible. The failure to shut down Ukraine's air defenses is another casualty of Russian incompetence, though this time it stretches all the way to the top. When the United States led a coalition in 1991 to end Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, it shut down Iraq's air defenses within 48 hours through surgical and overwhelming strikes, while fighter aircraft swept from the skies any Iraqi fighters foolish enough to resist. By comparison, Putin dedicated only a small portion of the vastly superior in number Russian Air Force to try to shoot down Ukraine's air defenses.
Mental.
What should have taken Russia a few days to accomplish has yet to materialize, and incredibly, a month into the fighting, Ukrainian Air Force is still largely intact and flying up to 5 sorties a day. It's believed that Putin did not want to dedicate the number of aircraft necessary to the task, as it would signal that his special military operation was, in fact, what it really is, a full-scale war to maintain.
Now, do you believe that he wouldn't utilize all of what he could just because of the terminology involved? I don't think that's the case. I think we need to look a little bit deeper at this and think, well, actually, maybe he didn't want to utilize all of his infrastructure in case, all right, in case that it was in terms of militarily, they were overcome by the opposition. So what I'm saying is, what happens if he utilized all of his kit and equipment and it just got blown out of the sky, blown off the ground, blown out of the air? All right, then he hasn't got an effective air force. So what does he do then? He's used all of his assets. He's crumbled under the pressure. They've all been destroyed. You know, that puts them in a very, very, very vulnerable position on the global stage to, you know, I mean, they need to think about defending their own country as well. You know, with the joining of Finland and Sweden potentially to NATO, that puts them in a very, very vulnerable position, especially the fact that NATO is encroaching closer onto his borders than he wanted to. That's the whole reason he allegedly invaded Ukraine in the first place, is to try and stop that line, that invisible notionary border of NATO getting closer. In actual fact, him invading Ukraine has put himself closer to the border of Ukraine. Work that one out.
Domestic support, Putin must keep up the facade that Russian forces are still engaged in only light fighting, and thanks to his massive control over Russian media, he's still somewhat succeeding at maintaining his narrative. But this has allowed Ukraine's air defenses to continue to take a heavy toll on the Russian aircraft, with 39 planes and 40 helicopters lost in just the first 2 weeks alone. The total number today after a month of fighting is unknown, but believed to be well over 100. Incompetence in the Russian military, however, extends all the way down the chain of command. Russian forces have to date shown little competency in everything from convoy security to responding to ambushes. In this video, we can see Russian armor bunched up inside of a neighborhood.
That's crazy.
Subsequently, they fall prey to a well-coordinated ambush. Not only do the bunched up vehicles make easy targets, but the destruction or damaging of one vehicle can cause traffic.
Right, so I wonder what, I haven't actually seen this video. If anyone can add any context to this, was it an infantry-based assault and / ambush on the convoy? Now they're heavily armored. Well, I say heavily armored vehicles. You'd like to think that they were armored, but over the past few days, we've been seeing that a lot of the armor that they've been using in kit equipment on their infanteers has been merely cardboard, which blows my brains to think that you'd be able to go and send your troops into the battle space with cardboard as your body armor. I just don't know where that thought pattern comes from. Who actually thought that that's a good idea? God knows. But with the budget that they've got, things like that should not be happening, guys. Now, my question to you again, was that convoy actually an infantry-based assault, or was that convoy attacked by other convoys of heavily armored vehicles? Because on there it's not too clear. I just see a couple of flashes at the beginning and at the right. That looks like a typical ambush, all right, but was it ambush fire vehicles? That's what I want to know, because it does change that quite a bit, to be fair.
Jams as the panicked drivers try to get away. This is a failure of the proper way to use armor in combination with infantry. In the West, armor is always closely supported by infantry, whose job it is to protect the tank from enemy anti-tank teams. Not only should these vehicles not have been bunched up so closely together, they're lucky they weren't also under air artillery attack. If the
I mean, this is basic stuff, guys, okay? We're talking about not getting bunched up. Now, you've got, what, 15 vehicles or something there, all bunched up together? A mortar team would be able to take them out if they had the correct explosive equipment on them. That's absolutely nuts. This is basic stuff. This is stuff that we get taught as infanteers in the first couple of weeks. You know this already. You know not to bunch up, and it's thrashed into you. So how do these guys not know that? It's not practice. It's not in training. And although you wouldn't practice that anyway, i.e. not doing it, if it's real, I would be like, whoa. When it's real, you're all over your drills. You're thinking, right, I need to be on my game. Everything I've been taught is staying in my brain. I'm going to act upon that because it's the thing that's going to save our life. Do they not care about their life? Or have they just quite simply not practiced what we are looking at to be an obvious fault in their strategy? I think it comes down to this. I think the training is inadequate. I think the training is second grade. It isn't as good as we think it is. And the failings that we are seeing is not down to laziness. They just haven't been taught it. Excuse me. They just haven't been taught it as far as I'm concerned.
Convoy had to stop for some reason. They should have been deploying infantry to screen the flanks against exactly this type of ambush. Yet, time and again, we see Russian troops failing to grasp even this most basic of combined arms concepts, and Russian armored vehicles are paying a staggering price for it, with nearly 2,000 combat losses.
That's absolutely crazy. You need these armored vehicles. They can be such an advantage to any infantry group. We've got armored mechanized infantry groups, part of the British Army, and small contingents in the Royal Marines as well. And what they can do is literally free up the battle space. Strategically, they're fantastic assets to have. You can cover wide ranges of areas. Infantry assaults you can provide, fire support. You can get infanteers to a position quicker than you normally would via foot. You can support each other in various different ways. You can go through urban areas. You can go through wide open plains, and just really, if you utilize that asset, you can dominate a lot of ground very, very quickly. These guys are just literally saying, hey, this is what we've got. Take us on if you want. If you blow us up, if you destroy it, it doesn't really matter. They're just blasé with the whole thing. It's shocking.
In yet another video, we see how Russian troops have been reacting to ambushes. In this video, we can see a column of Russian vehicles wander into a Ukrainian ambush, with a vehicle taken out by an anti-tank team. The US military teaches that the best way to survive an ambush is to assault it by turning armored vehicles into the ambush so their thicker frontal plates are presented to the enemy, and deploying infantry to fire on and suppress the enemy. Forces outside of the kill zone can then launch an assault against the ambushes.
Yeah, and the mentality behind this, guys, if you're wondering, well, why would you do that and not just get out of there? You've got to look at this. An ambush is going to have, you're going to want to put a lot of assets there with a lot of weaponry, a lot of weaponry focused in a very condensed area. So it's pretty much a kill zone. That kill zone is going to have an overwhelming amount of fire going in the direction, all right? So if you think about it, running away, you're just going to get blasted anyway. So what you do is you've got, in a condensed area as well, a lot of firepower, or you should do, because you're bunched up anyway in this case. Turn towards them and unleash. So it's literally, it's a one in, it's all in. That's what you're going. You're putting all your cards on the table, you're all in. Right, let's have a go. There's going to be heavy casualties on both sides. That's just how it goes, guys. But that's your best fighting chance, and a chance that I think you should take if you are ambushed. It's a terrible situation to be involved in, but if you are in an armored vehicle and you're against, anti-tank teams, then it could be effective. It's more effective than just getting out of there, that's for sure.
Instead, the Russian forces scatter in panic, with only 2 of the tanks turning to the ambush and returning fire. Forces outside of the ambush simply come to a dead stop, and no Russian infantry dismounts to assault the ambush and relieve pressure on their buddies in the kill zone. Tactical incompetence extends to pretty much every aspect of the Russian convoy security, though, as their convoys have been observed coming to full stops at intersections, an absolute no-no for any convoy.
Wow.
Then, when they eventually begin moving again, instead of deploying screening elements on either side of the intersection, the convoy simply pulls ahead in single file, leaving themselves wide open to enemy attack. Perhaps the most baffling of all, though, is the destruction of air defense equipment via airstrike within parked convoys, with the operators not bothering to turn on their air defense radars for hours, while the convoy sat at a dead standstill. Russian troops are proving themselves to be poorly trained to the point of gross incompetence, but we couldn't mention convoys without explaining one of Russia's greatest failures to date. By now, everyone has seen images of an incredible 40-kilometer convoy of armored vehicles, fuel trucks, and artillery all stuck on its way to Kyiv, with similar scenes patterns repeating themselves at a smaller scale throughout Ukraine. Just what in the world is going on with Russia's convoys? Incredibly, the answer is simple. They're out of gas. Even more incredibly,
That's
they
crazy.
still haven't solved the problem after 3 weeks. Initially, Russia's forces went into Ukraine with a
And again, guys, this is something that was recorded about a month ago, but we all seen that on the news thinking, what the hell? You know, they had a massive convoy of individuals, armored infantry groups, you name it. Logistically, they had everything on that road. They were just there, stopped. Now, if you could have just thrown an air sortie into the mix and just getting rid of the entire group there, if you wanted to, you could have you could set up fire mortar teams, everything. Now, we actually were speaking about this a few weeks ago and thinking, well, was it done on purpose? Did they do this as a tactical reason to get troops out of Kiev into that position to try and assault them? Was it a false kind of pincer type tactic move, whatever you want to call it? And I concluded that it wasn't. It was down to incompetence. It was down to their inability to refuel their vehicles. How crazy is that? You know, they can sell fuel to the rest of the world, and some of the countries we know about have been buying loads of fuel off them. They can do that, but they can't fuel their own convoys. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more stupid, incompetent decision to be made on the battle space, as far as I'm concerned. That there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for incompetence in the command structure in that respect, unless you're just crap at your job. But we're about 20 minutes in there, guys. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We're going to save this video. We've got about, 5 minutes left or something, so we'll do a part 3. But I've been talking long enough. What do you think, guys? Why is Russia proving to be so incompetent at this moment in time? Is it the command structure? Is it the leadership? Is it the lack of desire to fight because, people just aren't on side with this war? This invasion? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, guys. But wherever you're doing today, I want to say thank you very much for stopping by, and smash that like button if you do anything today. It's really going to help me out. But troops, thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Peace.